Are your friendships feeling a bit imbalanced? Hi there, and welcome back to Ask Dr. Saira, the show where I answer your questions about mental health, personal growth, and relationships. Today's question comes from Nisha. Nisha says, I give a lot in my friendships, but it just feels like my friends don't do the same for me. Can you explain this in terms of attachment style? Do I need to change, or is this just who I am? I give a lot in my friendships, but it feels like my friends don't do the same for me. Can you explain this in terms of attachment style? Do I need to change, or is this just who I am? Okay, I love this question and how specific it is. You want to understand this in terms of attachment style. So, let me tell you a little bit about attachment style for those who might be new to this idea or this concept. It's kind of around. You've probably heard something about attachment style by now. Okay, so there's four different attachment styles. One is secure attachment, which is what we're all striving for, and then the other three are categorized as insecure attachment. And so within insecure attachment, there's three kinds. There's anxious, avoidant, and disorganized. So disorganized we'll put aside because that happens when people kind of flip back and forth and they're less predictable. And that often happens when there's been serious trauma for a child, for like ongoing trauma and ongoing violence. You'll have often children who have disorganized attachment. Then there's anxious and avoidant. So I want to talk about those two in particular in the context of your questions and friendship. So the anxious attachment style is the kind of easy label for it is clingy, right? Wanting to be closer, wanting to know verbally and through actions that they're cared for, that they're seen, that they're appreciated. If you think about it as like, I often talk about relationships as like intimate relationships as there's the runner and the chaser, right? So the anxious style is the chaser, the one that's always trying to come closer. The avoidant attachment style, we might call them distant, right? So they're actually feeling like they're kind of pushing away from relationships. They're kind of refocusing their attention on other things besides the people in their life. They are so okay, how does this happen? So they've done some experiments around with infants and toddlers around attachment, and what they found was children who have an anxious attachment style, in the experiments that they were doing, they had a hard time being soothed by their mother after a difficult separation. So though mom is trying to soothe the child just will not calm down. They can't use the mother's body to regulate themselves. In the avoidant style, the child actually rejects the mother after returning from an extended separation. So the child is like, it kind of, if the child could tell us their thoughts, it might be something like, it hurt me so bad that when you left, that I'm not even going to connect with you anymore, or at least right now, right? So to avoid the pain of loss, I'm not even going to connect with you. So those are kind of the seeds that are planted when we're really little, depending on how we were parented, our family context. We might develop either an anxious or an avoidant attachment style. We might also develop a secure attachment style, in which case this question wouldn't make sense to you. I give a lot in my friendships, but it feels like friends don't do the same for me. So for people in secure attachments in themselves, they don't mind giving or getting. They're not actually keeping score. They're just kind of being generous and allowing generosity to come to them. In avoidant attachment styles, we're very uncomfortable with people giving to us because it feels like we owe them something. And in anxious attachment styles, we give and give and give and give and are waiting for the return, hungrily waiting for the return. So that's how I would explain this particular piece around attachment style. So the anxious, it would be an anxious attachment style that you're exhibiting if you're giving a lot and they're not doing the same for you. Then you've picked friends who are likely have more of an avoidant attachment style, which is what we do actually. We actually pick the opposite style in order to bring ourselves more into balance so that we can kind of, both of us, instead of being in extremes, can kind of come more to the middle. So that's the first one. is attachment style. The second thing I want to talk about is your beliefs around giving, okay, and your beliefs around service. We have kind of a skewed undercurrent around giving in our culture that we live in here in North America. There's something in the flavor of things that says if you give, you're entitled to something back, right? Now, there's another concept, a spiritual concept that talks about the law of exchange. So the law of exchange means I'm going to give, I'm going to put my energy out into the universe, and the universe will send me energy to replenish myself, right? So there's this kind of exchange that happens. So sometimes that's through, I put something out and I get money for it. I put something out and I get blessings for it. I put something out and I get companionship and friendship out of it. Like that cycle of, it's like breathing, right? Inhale, exhale, and you keep going that way. So that's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about here is giving to get, right? Or a bit of maybe keeping score, which I talk about I think I'm going to talk about that in a future video, keeping score. It's, when I hear this, what I see is an imbalance, right? So I'm giving a lot, they're not giving anything. Why is that? Could that partly be because you're not very good at receiving? So people who tend to be really good givers have a hard time often receiving. So that could be part of it, that actually life is trying to give to you, but you're either expecting it from this particular person, where it's coming from life, but you want it from them, or it's coming and you don't really know how to receive it. So kind of ponder on that one. Is there a little bit of some beliefs getting in the way there around giving? The third thing is, okay, how do we move to balance, right? So if you're in this kind of unbalanced situation with your friends, how do you become more balanced, and so you're not having the same thing happen on a regular basis? And what that requires is what we call the secure attachment figure. So the way to resolve anxious attachment and avoidant attachment is for you to connect with someone who provides secure attachment. So they're just going to be there for you. You're not going to need to cling to them because they're not going to go anywhere, right? You're not going to need to give to them because they don't need anything from you, and they're actually going to give to you. There's kind of this change that happens slowly until you become more healthy yourself. Many of us are hoping to find that outside of ourselves. And there are some out there, some amazing people that are able to offer secure attachment to others. There's actually professions like that. Like therapy is one of the places that, you can have, like, so for myself, when I'm sitting with a client, I'm extending opportunity for secure attachment. But I'm not their family member. I'm not their friend. I'm not going to come with them into their life. So it doesn't really count in the same way, but at least they get a sense of what it feels like, right? If we can't find that externally, and most of us have a hard time finding that externally because most of us have some sort of baggage, and so do the people around us. And so now what we have to do is start developing that internal secure attachment figure, that inner voice that's really kind to us and says, you know what, you got this. You know what, do it if you want to, don't do it if you feel like you have to, right? That voice that coaches and guides and is gentle with us, starting to strengthen that voice and develop that voice. Because sometimes the reason we give is because we're afraid of losing people. So it's kind of like, in the olden days when you were a kid maybe, and there's that kid that would give candy to other kids so everyone would be their friend. That's kind of what this feels like. Maybe you're giving a little bit so that you can secure relationships, but you're not getting your cup filled. You're securing relationships, but you're not actually getting your needs met. So just kind of play with that, right? Is there a way for me to be that secure attachment voice within myself and soothe that part of myself that's longing for connection and friendships, and doing that through giving? Hopefully that was helpful. Just see how those concepts land with you. Some of them don't make sense, throw them out. Other ones might pique some curiosity or some further exploration for you. And this isn't therapy, right? Like, I'd have to sit with you and have a longer conversation, but these are just some of my thoughts that you might find helpful, Nisha, and others who are watching. If you have a question that you'd like answered, send me a quick note. Look around our channel for some other interesting content and trainings, and I'll see you next time. Bye.